Dr. Jazz.
I've been listening for you.
Dr. Jazz.
Like one of the first times I came to New York, I saw you with Binney
Oh, cool.
and in 55 bar, and I think it was Jacob and Thomas or Ivan, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
And I wanted to start this talk with dedication and ask you about your trio with Thomas and Jacob. How did you guys hook up? When did you guys start playing? And you seem to have such an amazing chemistry, especially, when I listen to you, what you and Thomas do. It's just like he holds this ground and you're just like dancing around there.
Yeah, we started playing in about 2000.
Already, wow.
So I met Jacob in school in 95.
Wow. Okay.
And then I met met Thomas in 2000, and then we started playing. We started playing, and then we recorded our first record, I think, in 2005 or six or something like that.
Yeah, that's a cool. Yeah, I love it.
And then we did another one in 2011, and then another one in 19, and then we just did this one this past year. So yeah, we got a lot of history. We played a lot together. We like playing together, and yeah, we've played in a lot of different contexts together. So we have a lot of fun playing together.
Do you guys discuss about music, or do you just present the guys' lead sheets, and then what's the work process there?
Not much discussion. We did have to rehearse for that record. Maybe I'm trying to think. Maybe 5 or 6 times, which is more than usual for today's recording process. Usually it's a couple rehearsals, but there was some involved music in this one. Primarily the one for Jacob. It's called For Jacob, and then the one for Nan Caro. That's pretty tough. So we had to get that together. So those required some rehearsal.
Yeah. How do you write these tunes? I mean, when I listen to your music, it's just, even if I go back to that earlier stuff, Not Yet, and I listen to that today. It's just like, man, okay, what's happening there? How do you, as a composer, approach a tune? I mean, or have you?
Not Yet was just a line I wrote on piano.
Okay.
And I had this idea just from, you get inspiration from a lot of different composers. So I got some inspiration from Cage and Braxton, where they would do this additive thing. So it's just a line, a melody, and we improvise over one measure, and then we add another measure, and then we improvise over the first 2 measures. And we add another measure to the cycle, and we improvise over 3, and we keep on adding measures to the form. And it's a nice vehicle for improvisation. It creates a lot of different cycles. It's a nice extensive form.
Yeah.
And so I like different forms to solo over. And so that was one. And then this record, I did some at the piano. I did some ideas came from the drums. Some I just sat down at finale, and I would just write without anything, just to try to see, what would happen.
Yeah.
And then that song for Jacob came up that way. I think I had a groove that I came up with some drum groove, but then I just wrote the other stuff in the sequencing program.
Do you know when you write a tune, what you're gonna play on drums? If you don't play it, I mean, if you don't start with a groove, or does it just come no?
Yeah,
Okay.
it just comes, and I can play it different every time. But some of these tunes, I'm trying to think. Let's see. I have some little thing that I might do for Tim Smith, for example, the
Yeah.
first tune on that record. I know that I like to play, we play the head maybe 4 or 5 times in the beginning, and I just know that I like to have the hi-hat be more present as each head goes on. So that's something I'm not going to play it the same way, but I have little ideas that might happen.
Mm.
Or that that tune for Jacob that has a drum groove that I try to play, at least in the head. I try to play it exactly the same. It's tough, so I try to just play it my best. There's a song for Vivian on there that I might not play it the same way every time, but what I'm going for that is just really clear, simplistic drumming. Nothing fancy. Not much embellishing at all. Just time, simple time.
Yeah.
So I have different ideas, but I'm not going to play these things the same way. Every time, any time.
How do you make yourself comfortable over such, if you have a heavy form, like, I heard you in so many contexts, like from playing really basic stuff and like lots of odd meters and extended forms, either with Binney or Ruders or whoever, like, and you always seem to, float over these, probably what other people would find like really heavy forms. Like, how did you learn that? What's your process if you get a lead sheet and it's like, this complex 7, 11, 4, 3, 8, 16, whatever, like, how do you approach a tune?
Well, that's a good question. I'm lucky to have a good memory, number one. So that helps, and I've done it enough to have kind of strategies for internalizing the forms. So I'll try to internalize things as fast as possible, and that way I could be freer with the material or with the lead sheet. Yeah. I don't like to read at a gig. There's times where I can't help it. You have to, just if I don't have enough time to internalize it. But if I have my way, I wouldn't read at all on any gig, and I try to just have things inside where I don't need to, be stuck on the page. So, it's a combination of visual things or just like rhythmic devices that will make me be able to play the stuff, and be semi-free with it. So it's a combination of that, of visual and rhythmic.
How did you learn this, or how did you practice playing over complex forms? Like, did you like loop, or even now if you have something heavy, do loop a certain pattern and then just try things? Or
well, I could do a lot of it away from the drums. It just either, like I said, either thinking about the visualization, and then either maybe thinking about the rhythm in my head, and then if I can do that, then I don't I know that whatever, if I go down to the drum set, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Other things I need to actually work out at the drums. Certain things, like if Miles writes some things, Miles Okazaki, or if I write some things for the two of us, or there was a project in May I did with Miguel. He wrote some new music for Anana at Miguel's Zanan.
Oh man, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We did it in San Francisco, and I was at the drums having to work that out. So I couldn't just do that in my head. It wouldn't have had the same effect to actually get down there and play it. So, each situation is different. I'm trying to think of other stuff that's been pretty complicated. Matt Mitchell, his record, Vista Accumulation.
Yeah, that's...
That was mostly that was mostly thinking about it and looking at the page and listening to the MP3s. So not much physicality at the drums.
Yeah.
So other stuff, it's different. Each situation is different. Sometimes I actually need to get down there and practice the stuff on the drums, and sometimes I could just think about it and practice it in my brain, in my head. But I think that studying the tabla and having that tradition, it's an oral tradition, has helped in terms of memorization and internalization, because you don't get lead sheets in that music.
Sure.
You're taught the composition, and it takes however long it takes to get it.
Yeah.
So I think that training has helped.
When have you started with the tabla? Actually,
1997.
Okay, so kind of
so about 25 years.
Wow. And
Yeah.
when did you start incorporating, like, these tabla grooves and ideas to the drum set? Like, how did that idea come about with you? I mean, because as early as I can
Pretty early
remember,
on.
it's like you had that kind of.
Yeah. As soon as I was learning compositions, because it's like an alphabet, the tabla. You learn the alphabet. You learn a letter, then like words, and then phrases, and then sentences. So as soon as I started learning, kind of sentences or compositions, I started just trying to put them on the drums. And actually, no, before that, before I started learning tabla, I was listening to South Indian music and putting some of the konakol and some of the mridangam rhythms on the drum set. So even before I started with playing tabla, I was interested in transferring some of those rhythms. Some tabla rhythms too. I remember listening to Okazaki or Hussein duet concert, and I remember hearing some things on that and trying to move it to the drum set. And then there was El Subramaniam record where there was, I'm trying to remember the Gatan player. It could have been Viku. No, I don't think it was. But whoever it was, a really long konakol solo. And I learned the whole thing. I learned the whole thing and put it on the drums. So that must have been, again, in the 90s at some point, probably mid to late 90s.
Okay. Wow.
Before I started with the tabla. So I was always interested in it,
I mean, prior going to the tabla, I mean, obviously, like when I listen to the 16 drummer suite, you kind of mention, I guess, your influences or people who you listen to, but like, what was the main reason? I read somewhere John Bonham. Then you wrote a tune, "Ode to Meshuggah," which kind of everything makes sense when I listen to you. So you have all these various influences, but when you were a teenager, I guess early 90s, what was the trigger for you, let's say jazz-wise or even drumming-wise, that you decided for the instrument?
The trigger drumming-wise was Bonham. That was the first guy I ever heard.
Oh, okay.
When I was super young, I remember really, really young and hearing Led Zeppelin 4, and that was it. That was a trigger, And then from there, it was guys like Keith Moon, also
sure.
At the same time period, guys like Keith Moon and Mitch Mitchell, and then I hit progressive rock. I hit Neil Peart.
Really? Oh wow!
And
okay.
and that was he was just a tremendous influence on me. Still is the way he composed those drum parts.
Yeah.
The nuance, the composition, the way he composed. And
orchestration, what he plays,
It's really still, for me, it's some of my favorite drumming. And then I think Max Roach was the first one that hooked me, when I heard It was January 10th.
Mm.
He was born.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So that was hearing him with Clifford Brown was kind of the thing that got me, and I think hearing Max Roach, I think early Charlie Parker, and
Yeah, that's incredible stuff. Yeah.
I think that was there was also another record I heard early on, Count Basie, Straight Ahead, with Harold Jones playing drums, and that was another one that really kind of got me hooked.
Interesting. Did you start going then to jazz gigs? Like, there were still are incredible drummers, of course, in New York back then, and still like. Do you remember the first gigs you saw? Or
yeah, it was Max, it was Elvin Jones,
okay.
guys like that. Lucky enough to see Tony, and lucky
really?
enough to see Billy Higgins, and so people from that generation, Jimmy Cobb.
Yeah, sure.
Lucky enough to see, and then younger generation, lucky enough to see, DeJohnette and guys who were still playing now, Billy Hart,
yeah,
Louis Hayes, Al Foster,
guys who are still around.
They're still around, but I was lucky enough to see them earlier, so 30 years ago.
Yeah,
and Roy Haynes and there's some people I missed, which bums me out, like Art Taylor and
sure.
Mel Lewis, Donald Bailey. I never got to see any of those drummers play.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah, he was incredible.
Yeah, but lucky enough to see some of the greats, and be very close to Elvin.
Yeah,
Be Max Roach, front row, just studying exactly what they were doing, and I have those pictures still in my brain,
Yeah, I remember. I think Nasheed Waits, he told me, like, I think he saw Elvin like really up close on one gig, and like just the cymbal and everything he was so loud, and just everything was falling apart, and he was catching the drums, but just the groove, that's so intense, like what he played, and it's I never saw him live, unfortunately. I mean, but
yeah. So yes, and then I was, people of the generation or two younger than that. I would see all those people play. Everybody, Tane, you name it. Lewis Nash, Smitty Smith, Joey Barron, Peter Erskine, every Bill Stewart, everybody, Billy Drummond, just, and so I was very lucky to see all those players play multiple times.
Yeah, it was so vibrant, I think, the scene, right, in the mid-90s, when you kind of
and I was in high school, but I had a license, and I would go and drive in, and a couple times a week, sometimes more, sometimes 3-4 times a week, because I lived really close to New York City. I lived 10 minutes from the George Washington Bridge, so I'd be in the city in 12 minutes. So I'd always go, and there was also a club in New Jersey called Trumpets, who I saw, a lot of greats too.
Players,
yeah.
Did you already then, like mid-90s, started playing with certain people? I mean, who were the first guys you kind of hooked up with? You said Jacob, and I guess the guy you're wearing on your T-shirt, and
exactly.
and but who were the people who you connected the first? I mean, when kind of entering the scene, I mean, or studying.
Well, I wasn't really in the scene. I was at school, but I still met the people that, some of which I still play with, like Miles Okazaki.
Oh, you met Miles there, okay.
Or Miguel Zanon I met at school, or Jacob Garchik, who I still play with, who's one of the.
I love the last album, yeah. He did amazing.
Man, he's a special musician.
Yeah.
And then other people who are in, different circles, but still the same zone. Like Jason Moran, I met there at school. He went to school the same time. Eric Harland, Stefan Harris was there at the same time I was there. A little older, but So yeah, and then from there, I met Dave Binney, and then a lot of things opened up. I met Chris Potter actually when I was going to school. There was a bass player that he was playing with that I played with, so I was lucky enough to meet him there. I remember subbing a little bit for Ari Honig.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because he was a few years older than me, but he would throw me some gigs here and there, and I remember I would sub for him and play with Joel Fromm a little bit. So just little by little, making my way, and you meet some people, and
were there like straight ahead gigs, like standards, or?
That was pretty straight ahead, sure.
Oh, okay.
But then we formed this group with Miles. It was Miles and Miguel Zanon and a bass player named John Flauher and another great saxophone player named Christoph Knoche.
Yeah.
So we had this quintet that we started in school, and we would do some gigs. There was a place that we played, a couple places that we played while we were still maybe in college, and then for the couple years after college, we played at this place called C Note, and the Cutting Room, and things like that. And I remember early on, meeting and playing a little bit with Guillermo Klein.
Really? Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I love this guy. Yeah.
He's great. I met him early on. I played tabla with him quite a few gigs, and then there was a couple times I would sub for like Jeff Ballard or Marlon Browden, guys like that. So I was just lucky enough to be around at that time to meet some people. I met Donnie McCaslin at that time. I met him in high school, actually.
Really?
I would go see him play. Yeah, I'll go see him play. And I remember, because I studied vibraphone vibes with a guy named Jean-Baptiste Beauclair, who did a few records with Donnie. So through Jean-Baptiste, I met Donnie, and I remember going to hear him play I can remember a few different gigs that I would go see him with. He played with Santi DeBriano, bass player.
Yeah, bass player. Yeah.
I remember going to see them. I remember going to see Donnie at Birdland when it was Uptown with Kenny Wollesen and Joe Martin. And so that was probably 94, 95. I would see Donnie with Steps Ahead in the mid 90s with Clarence Penn. So I was lucky enough to be around, So growing up in Jersey was really good.
Yeah,
for that reason.
How did you mention David Binney? When was the first time you guys hooked up? How did he call you? I mean, how did you meet him, or he met you, or?
We met on a tour that a great trombone player, great composer named Christoph Schweitzer.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's how we met.
Oh, really?
And that might have been. I remember Billy Hart was playing with Christoph, and I remember subbing just a rehearsal, not a gig or anything, but I remember subbing a rehearsal for Billy Hart. And I think the first time I met Billy was at Russ Johnson, who was a great trumpet player. I don't know if you know Russ.
No, sure,
you do.
Of course, yeah.
At his wedding,
okay.
Billy, I think, was playing drums. I can't remember if I was playing drums at the wedding or if Billy was. Well, maybe I was and Billy sat in, or Billy was playing drums. I feel like I don't know what. That doesn't make sense that he would play that gig. I feel like I would do that gig. That makes more sense. That doesn't make sense that Billy Hart would play that Russ's wedding. So I think I was doing the gig, and maybe Billy graced us all and sat in and played. So that was the first time I met Billy.
Mm.
And around the same time, I subbed a rehearsal that he was doing for Christoph Schweitzer.
Mm.
And then we did a tour in 2000, maybe a septet, Christoph Schweitzer septet. And it was Christoph, Dave Binney was playing tenor.
Really?
Yep. Eric
Oh.
Rasmussen, great alto player. Eric Rasmussen,
Yeah.
who is now, he relocated to Arizona. The last I heard. I think he's still there. He was playing alto, great alto player, great composer too, amazing tunes.
Yeah.
And Hans Glaviznik was playing bass. Matt Schulman was playing trumpet.
Mm.
And Jacob was playing, and I was playing, and that's where I met Binney. And then he started calling me for some gigs. So yeah, over 20 years ago.
Did he immediately? What was the first lineup? I mean, he kind of formed that quartet with you, Jacob, and Thomas. Was that the original kind of lineup that you guys hooked up already, or?
Pretty early on. I want to say like 2002 or 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that band. I remember you in the 55, man. There's
a lot of fun times.
That was special.
A lot of fun gigs. A lot of gigs.
Yeah.
A lot of gigs. We played a lot of Tuesdays there.
Was it with Christoph the first time you went to Europe?
No, Christoph Kanocha was the first time I went to Europe. He had a band with Russ Johnson and the late Bob Bowen, who passed.
Oh, that's on that Omnitone Records, right? He did one record. No.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
That quartet. Good recall. And yeah, it's a shame about Bob, really. I think about that a lot. He passed in a bike accident.
Oh shit.
A long time ago, maybe 2000, I don't know, 8, 9. But that was the first time I went over there with those guys. It was fun hang, No, that's not true. I went there earlier in a big band setting with a vocalist from Norway, Johanna Grusner. I met her at Manhattan School of Music.
Oh, okay.
That was a big band. A lot of guys from school.
Okay.
So that was my first time to Europe.
Okay. Interesting.
Actually.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know you've been then, with Binney and many other guys, like 6 zillion times probably. So, yeah, it's incredible. Like
I miss what you just said.
I'm saying you've probably been like with
out there.
Tons of guys in Europe, with Binney and everyone else, and I guess with your own groups also. When was the first time that? Like you as a band leader?
Yeah, I'm trying to think the first time I was in Europe as a band leader. Good question. Maybe 2006 or 7.
Already? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so late, like, by today's standards, I was 30, 29 or 30.
Yeah, okay, by today's standards, that's like really old. No, but kidding. But
it's okay because I'm happy that I didn't, put out records when I was so young, and I'm happy that I did that. I feel like maybe I had a little something to say by the time I put out my stuff, So I don't, I'm not. If people ask me advice, I say just, have something there's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no rush. You don't want to put something out because you can never take that back, So maybe have something to say
before, yeah.
And maybe wait a few more years or a couple couple more years because otherwise it could backfire. You might not be happy with it. You might not be, you might not be ready to put something out yet. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, when I listen to Now Yes When, it's as modern as it can be, even if it's like, what, 18 years old, or
say again, say it one more time. I missed.
Oh, sorry,
You
yeah.
cut out there.
No, it's like I'm saying that even now, if I listen to Now Yes When, it sounds incredibly modern and mature,
Oh,
even
thanks.
if it's the beginning kind of.
Yeah.
How did you decide to become a band leader, actually? When was that moment?
I just, well, just I've always been writing music, so
Okay.
I needed some outlet for that.
Did you find
I
that
don't know
like,
if it's my connection or your. I don't know if it.
I think it's mine, we live on the countryside here, so it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Like, but
So
becoming a band leader you've done like tons of records. I mean, tons, like a lot, I think,
yeah, I've done. I think 12, maybe
yeah,
11 or
that's,
12.
yeah, which is,
It's
considering
something.
what kind of music they are, it's really, complex music. And how have you developed as a band leader in your eyes, through the years, and what have you learned from guys like Binney, or, with so many musicians you've played with?
I've learned a lot. I mean, all the band leaders that I've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of great band leaders who would just, they trust.
Yeah.
They had a lot of trust and wouldn't say much. They just let the people play. So, when I lead a band, I do the same thing. I'm not giving directions or anything. I might, if I have an idea about something, I might say that, but otherwise, I'm not going to tell people what to do, how to play. You hire the people and you have trust in them. So, because you also learn what not to do.
Yeah.
Like when you play in enough situations, you might be in a situation where it might not be the best thing. You might have band leaders telling you what to do, and you might feel really stifled. So you learn what not to do,
Yeah.
and or maybe you be doing tours and the logistics they're not good. So you learn that too. You learn what will make the people happy in the band, and you try to make it as easy as possible. And if
Yeah.
that means paying extra for whatever, then that's what that means. If it means paying extra for a flight that leaves 2 hours later, we'll pay extra for that flight. If it means staying in a hotel one extra night, but paying for the hotel and not trekking to make to do a gig that you're going to lose money, things like that. So you have enough experience doing those kind of things, you learn how you want to treat the people in your band. So
Did you make these mistakes in the beginning as well, or
no, I
no?
did
Okay.
not. No,
Okay.
because I had enough experience as
With playing with those guys.
a
Yeah.
side person to know what I did not want to do. So no, lucky enough, I was on the ball in terms of that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You like this role? I mean, as a sideman or as a band leader, of course, if you're a sideman, you just come to the gig and basically
Yeah,
that's it.
it's a lot less stress.
Yeah.
It's a lot less stress. So there's pros and cons, but again, you don't get to play your music. Um, but yeah, being a band leader, I did a tour in December. It wasn't really that stressful, and it was fun. It was a good experience, but still leading up to it, just me being the type of person I am, I go over every little detail many times just to make sure in my head, make sure everything's okay, make sure, okay, is this hotel booked? Is this hotel cool? How far is it from the venue? Is it not
Yeah.
too far? Is this connection going to be, you know is there going to be enough time? You know, all those kind of things. And just to
Yeah.
think about those things a lot.
Yeah. It's funny if you're a
So,
band leader. I did a tour now, like a 3-week tour in October, and with Bob Moses and Ariel Thunderson, who are like 77. So I had to drive. I had to carry the equipment, set up, helping up, selling the CDs, talking with the promoters, with the audience, and then also play music. So it's like all these things like that.
exactly. Yeah, you got to be a salesman after
Yeah.
after the gig or during the set break.
Yeah.
You got to be.
It's bizarre.
You got to take on a lot of roles. Exactly.
Yeah. Otherwise, Dan, I wanted to ask you about Starebaby also. Like, is this still a project that's alive? I mean, I love that band, and what's happening in that department actually?
It's alive. We've been playing at this place called New Blue. I'm sure you know that place.
Yeah, sure.
So I've been trying to do it like once every few months. So we have a gig in March.
Okay.
The last gig that we did there, I think, was September or October. So once every few months, I have some new music. Hopefully,
okay.
we'll record in the next year or two. Everybody's super busy in that band.
Yeah, it's
So
nice set of musicians.
I mean, now also Ben, Monder's in the Bad Plus, so he's really busy. Taborn's always busy. Matt's always busy. Trevor, so we'll see. But it's still alive, It's still, and then who knows about touring? It's a lot to get. First of all, to get those guys scheduled to line up, and then touring with a quintet is pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely.
Just financially, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, especially going to Europe nowadays. That's like it's such a hassle.
I don't really. Yeah, it's just But maybe we did the Big Ears Festival in last March. Did that. That was fun. So maybe if there's a couple gigs, like a couple things that we could put together, maybe in the States or something like that.
Yeah,
make it work.
Yeah, it's a burning one, man. I love that group. So it's such a unique sound. I listen to that music and it's like, I don't know, a taste of memory. I listen to it. It's like a movie soundtrack. You go through all these different, sceneries, and it's like, man, what's happening now? I love this.
That's the one that starts just with the keyboard and piano, right?
Yeah, and then it goes like in that last part into this strange different world. It's like what? It so helps, of course, you have those guys like. It's beautiful. I mean, I love that stuff. So
thanks. Yeah, people. I mean, not that people talk about it, but the people that have either interviewed me or talked about that record, they don't talk about that tune. But that was one of my favorite ones on that record.
For me
so
also.
Thanks.
Definitely.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. I wanted, in the end, to ask you like, what's on the schedule for? You mentioned a little bit for this year, and I listen to music for drums and guitar also with Miles, which is stunning as always. So that's another level. I talked with Miles like last year, did this interview, and when asking about how you guys do it, I listened to you since Mirror, what you've played, and there are some concepts there that are like, okay, what's happening?
Yeah.
But is there something coming up with Miles also next year? Or, I mean, this year, or what's on the schedule for you until summer?
Well, we're going to try, me and Miles are going to get together and try to plan maybe another tour. We did a tour in October. That was fun. We're going to try to do another one maybe in the fall or summer. Maybe we'll record again. Yeah, we like doing the States. Okay. We had an offer for Europe, but it was one gig and it wasn't really, wasn't worth it. But I did a recording with Matt, Mitchell, and Miguel, a trio recording. That's in the can, and then I just been going through it. So that should come out in 2023.
You as a band leader, I mean.
Yeah, I wrote.
Really?
there's some music I wrote, a bunch of music I wrote for us, and then I composed these drum grooves. I laid down the drum grooves, and then Matt would lay down whatever he wanted, or Miguel, and then Miguel or Matt would layer on top of that.
Okay.
And then sometimes they would play together on top of the drum grooves. So it's kind of, I don't, it's there's like two records worth of material. One is the stuff that we played all together, and then the other stuff is the drum track, and then them on top of it.
Oh, beautiful.
So that should, I'll definitely put that out in 2023. And then, yeah, I did a couple gigs with Thomas and Emmanuel Wilkins where we did kind of standards but I had these drum parts that kind of dictated the arrangements. They're a little what's the word? There's some form things that are fun and some metric modulation things that I did that are, in part of the tunes. So maybe, again, those guys are busy too. So,
Oh, sure.
but I would like to record that, So maybe record that. Who knows? Maybe record Starebaby, and so just keep it moving,
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, if you come to Europe, I hope to catch you, man. I'd like to whoever line up.
Yeah.
Follow your schedule, so if you know.
And I'm doing a bunch of stuff in the States and in Canada, which lately I'm into.
Sure.
But I was just over there in Italy for a week.
Oh shit! Okay.
That was fun in Orvieto.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
if
I
you're
was
in
supposed
Austria, I'll catch you. Vienna or Graz.
yeah,
Close to me, man. So,
yeah.
super.
It might be a little while though.
Yeah, that's cool. Man,
All right, man.
I'll leave you your time to settle your record collection.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, then you'll put on a record. That's the fun part. You'll be like, oh shit, man, I love this one.
Well,
It'll
I
take
don't
days.
know what I'm gonna do.
No, it's time for alphabetic order and stuff,
No, they were already like that. Alphabetical,
Shit. Okay.
chronological, genre. They were all.
Oh shit. Okay.
Now they're all out of order. All right.
Dan,
All right,
take care.
Samo.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.